The lobby of the Ashcroft Tower gleamed with cold, modern luxury. Marble floors, polished to a mirror shine, reflected the soft golden light spilling from a crystal chandelier that probably cost more than most houses. Guests in tailored suits and designer dresses passed through the security checkpoint, greeted by staff in black suits and white gloves. Champagne trays floated through the air. Everyone knew their place, except Jack Rivers. He stood just inside the entrance, his boots heavy on the marble. The doorman had eyed him with disdain, but let him through after a brief check, probably out of confusion more than anything else. Jack didn't look like he belonged. His flannel shirt, faded jeans, and calloused hands made him stick out like a broken cog in a Swiss watch. He held a plain white envelope in one hand, creased from being carried too long in a jacket pocket. His other hand was stuffed into his jeans. His face was calm, unreadable. The kind of calm that came from years of knowing what real danger looked like. Across the room, a large security guard near the base of the stairs clocked him immediately. Broad-shouldered, clean-shaven, built like a tank in an expensive suit. He was used to dealing with drunk tech bros and nosy reporters. Jack barely registered on his scale of threats. The guard stepped forward, one hand up. "Sorry, pal, kitchen's in the back," the guard said with a smirk, eyes scanning Jack up and down. "No deliveries through the front entrance." "I'm not making a delivery," Jack said, voice low and even. "I need to speak with Mr. Ashcroft." That made the guard chuckle. He looked over his shoulder at another nearby guard as if to share the joke. "Yeah, right, and I'm the Queen of England." He looked back at Jack, still grinning. "You got a reservation, Reggie?" Jack held up the envelope. "He'll want to see this." The guard glanced at it, unimpressed. "Yeah, I'm sure he gets love letters from angry ex-mechanics all the time." "Look, man, I don't know how you got in here, but I'm telling you nicely." "I'm not here to cause trouble," Jack interrupted, still holding the envelope. "But if Ashcroft doesn't hear what I have to say, you'll be cleaning this mess up later." "A lot of people will." The guard's smile returned, but now it was tinged with condescension. "Look, I get it. You got a beef. You're mad. You think you're owed something. Maybe you've had a few too many and thought you'd come give the rich guy a piece of your mind." He leaned in slightly. "But you're not the first guy with a sob story and a grudge. And you won't be the last. So, let's not make this worse than it needs to be. Turn around. Walk out. Go be a hero somewhere else." Jack sighed. He looked past the guard for a second, toward the stairs leading up to the rooftop. He could hear the faint pulse of music from above, the sound of people laughing. That world had forgotten him long ago. But it hadn't forgotten what it did. Then he reached down and began to roll up his sleeve. The guard raised an eyebrow, one hand subtly drifting to the earpiece wire behind his collar. Jack's forearm bore a tattoo, worn, but still sharp. A sword crossed with wings, coiled in black. Below it, the faded text, 5th Special Forces Group. Beside it, a deep scar ran across the muscle, jagged and brutal. It told a story of a roadside blast in Helmand Province. A story that ended in blood and betrayal. The guard's smirk vanished. His eyes darted from the scar to the ink, then back to Jack's face. He took a step back. Your 5th group." Jack's expression didn't change. "Used to be." The guard straightened. The casual arrogance was gone now, replaced by something colder. Cautious, respectful. Jack took a step forward. "Tell Ashcroft." His voice dropped a notch. "Reaper says hello." The guard stared at him for a beat, then turned away and pressed a hand to his earpiece, whispering urgently. Jack waited. A few guests passed by, glancing at him curiously. Some wrinkled their noses at the sight of someone who didn't smell like cologne and bank accounts. Jack didn't flinch. He'd faced worse than sneers. The envelope hung in his hand like a quiet threat. 30 seconds later, the guard turned back, his face pale. The penthouse was a cathedral of wealth. Glass walls framed the Manhattan skyline in every direction, glittering like a sea of stars below. Inside, warm jazz played from a live quartet near the fireplace. Art hung from the walls, real art, the kind that needed insurance policies and a security detail. Men in tuxedos sipped 100-year-old whiskey and laughed like they'd never heard the word recession. Women in sleek designer gowns circled like birds of paradise, draped in diamonds and old money. At the center of it all stood Charles Ashcroft. Tall, silver-haired, and wearing a midnight blue suit that seemed stitched from shadows, Ashcroft looked every bit the billionaire. He was holding court near the bar, entertaining a pair of investment bankers and a woman from a European royal family who didn't want her name mentioned. He was laughing when his head of security, Mason, approached at a near jog. The movement was fast enough to draw attention but quiet enough not to cause alarm. Ashcroft's laughter died mid-sentence when he saw the look on Mason's face. Mason leaned in close, voice low. "Sir, you need to hear this. We've got someone downstairs, name's Jack Rivers." Ashcroft blinked once. Then, slowly, the color drained from his face. "No," he said quietly. "That's not possible. Jack Rivers is dead." He rolled up his sleeve. Mason said, "Unit tattoo. Matching scar. Said to tell you, Reaper says hello." Ashcroft's hand tightened on his glass. The ice cracked with the sound of a bone breaking. "Bring him up," Ashcroft said. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a knife. "Now." Mason nodded and disappeared. Ashcroft turned back to his circle of guests, masking his expression with a practiced smile. "Excuse me, old friend just arrived." He walked toward the far side of the room, where the private elevator would open. The jazz kept playing. The guests kept drinking. But something shifted in the room. A ripple, a change in pressure, invisible but unmistakable. When the elevator doors opened, Jack stepped out like a shadow that didn't belong in the light. He didn't pause, didn't look around. He didn't need to. He walked straight ahead, eyes locked on Ashcroft, who waited near the center of the room with a calm that was just a little too still. Ashcroft smiled thinly. "Jack," he said, "I almost didn't recognize you." Jack stopped a few feet away. He didn't smile. Didn't offer a handshake, just held out the envelope. Ashcroft didn't reach for it. "I thought you were dead," he said quietly. "You left me for dead," Jack said. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The weight of it made the words land hard. "Helmand Province. That last op, the one you said was just cleanup." "I was trying to save the mission," Ashcroft replied, voice calm, eyes sharp. "You know how things were. Everything was chaos. You saved yourself," Jack said. "You walked away. Ramirez didn't." Ashcroft flinched, just slightly. "I watched him die," Jack went on. "Took him 3 hours. He wrote that letter with his last good hand. You want to read it? It's in there." Ashcroft finally took the envelope. He looked down at it, then back at Jack. "You came all this way for revenge?" "No," Jack said. "I came for accountability." A silence settled between them, charged and brittle. "What do you want?" Ashcroft asked. 1 week, Jack said. "You come clean. Publicly. You tell the truth about the raid. About the stolen intel. About what you really did with it when you got back. Or I take this," he nodded at the envelope, "to every journalist, every senator, every watchdog group that still gives a damn." Ashcroft's fingers tightened on the envelope. "You think they'll believe you over me?" "They'll believe Ramirez," Jack said. "They'll believe the wire transfers. The mission logs. The satellite footage." Ashcroft said nothing. Behind them, a few guests had started watching. They sensed something real happening, something not polished or choreographed. They didn't recognize Jack, but they recognized tension. Wealth could buy privacy, but not silence. Ashcroft looked around slowly, then back at Jack. "You're playing with fire." Jack stepped closer, his voice low. "No," he said, "I am the fire." Ashcroft took a breath, long and slow. Then he nodded once. Jack turned and walked away, passing the jazz band, the art, the glittering skyline, the people who didn't know him and never would. The doors opened. He didn't look back. Mason stepped up beside Ashcroft.